Today we're going to go over the devices that you will find in the average small network. So whether you're a residential client, you're a small business, you will have these devices, and these devices will be what allow your computers to talk to each other and then again get on the internet. So this is an introduction to networking class, and we're going to go over the hardware and the basic requirements to make your computers talk. Now the first thing that I'm going to talk about is I'm going to show you a basic diagram of how your network connects together and where the different components fit in. Now the first device then that will be on your network, the very first device that will connect your computers to the internet, will be your modem. So your modem is the first device that you own, that's part of your equipment that will connect you to the internet. Now behind that will be something called a router. So this is another device that you will own, that you will have, and the router then connects to the modem. Underneath your router, you will have something called a firewall. A firewall is a protective device that tries to protect your network from hackers. So that will be underneath the router. Underneath then the firewall will be something called the switch. The switch, you can think of the switch as a splitter of the internet signal. So you can, we'll go into this in class. You can have however many computers connected that you want. But all of your computers or devices will connect into the switch, and then the switch will then either allow them to communicate with each other or to go out onto the internet. Another device that will be on your network is, of course, a wireless access point. The wireless access point will allow wireless computers and devices to then connect to the network. So now that we understand modems, the next device that is underneath a modem in your average network is something called a router. So what the router does is the router allows you to separate different networks. So let's say you're in a building and you're sharing the internet connection between multiple different businesses in one building. So sometimes you may become a tenant of a building and they offer you internet connection as part of the service. Well, all of the tenants within the building may be sharing the same internet connection, so they need some way to separate the different tenants onto their own private networks, because you don't want tenants hacking each other. You don't want it all completely open. So in that scenario, what would happen is your internet connection would be split out from the modem, and that would go to different routers for the different tenants within the building. So every tenant would have their own router. So what this allows to happen is each tenant, no matter how many computers they have on their own internal network, can go out through the router and go into the internet. But they cannot get into one of the other people's internal networks. So you can go out through the router, but you would not be able to loop and get back in and be able to hack anybody else's network. So routers are used logically to divide networks. And this again is used normally for internet connections. If you want to use only one internet connection but provide that internet connection to multiple users or multiple tenants on the network, basically you would have one internet connection and then multiple routers connected. So all of those networks can then connect to the internet without having to worry about anybody hacking them. So all of the devices, all the wired devices, everything with a network cable, at some point comes into your switch now. As you will see on the back of a switch, it has ports. Basically the ports, all the computers plug into these ports. One of these ports goes to your router. That's what connects everything together. Now that you have all of your wired devices talking to each other, all of the computers on your network now talk to each other and then go out on the internet, now you need to deal with your wireless devices, whether they're wireless printers, whether they're your little iPhone or laptop computers. Those devices now need to be able to communicate with everything else on the network. They do this through something called a wireless access point. All a wireless access point is it is a device that allows wireless computers and devices to connect to the network. So it's a device usually about this big. Some of them have little antennas on them, some of them do not. It doesn't really matter as long as they're wireless access points. So those wireless access points, all the computers wirelessly connect to them, and then they will have one cable that goes from that wireless access point into the switch. And so that is how all of the wireless devices can then communicate with the wired devices, and the wired devices can communicate with the wireless device through the wireless access point.